We are back on our regular schedule. It's the Desmond Johnson Show. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by my co-host, David Glenn from the North Carolina Sports Network, who joins me bi-weekly. We're back on our regular schedule. A lot to hit right here on your lunch break. The Panthers defeating the New York Football Giants 20-17 in overtime over in Germany on Sunday. We'll hit our good and bads from that matchup. I went to Spectrum Center for the first time Friday night. I took my wife on a date, went to watch the Hornets and the Pacers, and picked a good one to go to. The Hornets ended up winning by 20. Hornets are fairly relevant right now in the Eastern Conference. Talk a little bit about them and around the NFL. News just broke that Dak Prescott is out for the season. We'll talk about that and more. Let's go ahead and get into it. It's a Tuesday edition of the Desmond Johnson Show.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Yeah, welcome to the Carolinas. Everywhere you go, the sky is Carolina blue, the finest. Live action, feedback, the city needs that. I've been number one, no cap. Here's the recap. Adrenaline is my addiction. I'm about to relapse. Step on the turf if you won't and get your weed whacked. I'm going harder than a martyr on the starter end. It's the heart of man, that's a rap like a cardigan. I'm breaking records, it's 4th and inches, I count the seconds. The over-under's my roar of thunder, my secret weapon. Yeah, the game is to be told. I don't break, I break modes. Follow me on Tobacco Road.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
And welcome into the Desmond Johnson Show. It's a Tuesday edition here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. You can catch us 3 times a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, on Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel, youtube.com/at Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Joined by my compadre, David Glenn from the North Carolina Sports Network. What's going on, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Des. Always good to be with you.
So we usually at the sports buffet, whenever DG's in the house, we take advantage of having him in. He's able to touch on a bunch of different things at one time. And it's a good time to do it. It's in the broadcast world, it's what we call crossover season, where literally football and basketball have melted together into this hodgepodge of November. And I forget every year, like how busy I am in November until it actually hits. And for me, it hit literally like November 4th. A&T's playing basketball that I have to produce. And there's college football going on over here. And there's the high school football playoffs got moved back a week, so that kind of made it worse. So it got shoved down into December. So because the schools I deal with are going to be playing for a while, so there's a lot going on. I got DG for just a bit here this afternoon. We'll have everybody out by the end of your lunch break today. Appreciate everybody joining us as we are brought to you by Emergency Responders Credit Union in Winston-Salem, over off of Link Road. If you are an emergency responder in the Triad and you're looking for financial services, go check out ERCU. They are the spot for you. Let's start off with the Carolina Panthers. 9:30 kickoff in the morning in Germany this past Sunday, taking on the New York Football Giants. 2017 winners in overtime. And DG, the past couple of weeks, it feels like the Panthers are starting to find themselves a little bit in terms of who they are, identity-wise, maybe. Give me your thoughts on this game and this matchup, and just your overall thoughts on where the Panthers are as they head into their bye week.
Yeah, well, given the lack of success of the Panthers since David Tepper bought this franchise years ago, and given a 5-game losing streak in the midst of this regular season after the Panthers were predicted by most to be the worst team in the NFL, when you win a couple in a row, it just feels good. And when the details behind a couple in a row go a certain way, it can make you feel a little bit more optimistic. Obviously, to have a long-term view that involves any joy at all as a Panthers fan, you have to come to believe in Dave Canales as the head coach, and you probably have to come to believe in Bryce Young as the young quarterback. And in this case, you can also truly believe in a defense that, remember, held New Orleans to 20 or so points and then held the Giants under 20 points. At the NFL level, that is championship caliber defense. And baby step style, Bryce Young is getting better. Chuba Hubbard's not only playing really well at running back, he just got a long-term contract extension. And that defense, again, has looked at times like the defense that was the foundation of this franchise's success in some better times. So I'll take a 2-game winning streak, even against the Saints and the Giants. The Kansas City Chiefs are next. So who knows where it goes from here. But I think Panthers fans are just happy to see first competitive football. And when it comes to the form of a victory here or in Germany, we're not in position to be too picky about our NFL team in our backyard.
That is fact. We will take wins any way we can get them. Because at first I was like, well, it's the Saints and the Giants. I'm like, but that means nothing. We're the Panthers, so we'll win wherever we can. I will say, and I'm going to address this a little bit later on. Believe in Panthers. We're a little bit behind today. Stu was actually in Germany for the game, working with the Panthers in the capacity there. So he was traveling a little bit. Normally we do it at 10:30 in the morning on Tuesdays. We're doing it at 1:15 today, and we'll get more into the nitty gritty about what was going on with Carolina and everything else. I will say that over the past 4 or 5 days, I feel like I've been dealing with trolls on Twitter based off of opinions of Bryce Young or whatnot. And it's funny. I won't go into exactly what all it is or whatever. It's basically the typical, you're being a Bryce hater, yada, yada, yada. And I get sucked into it. And it's funny. It reminds me of the words of a friend of both of ours, Josh Graham. When we were doing the drive together a couple of years ago and I was producing for him, I was on Facebook a lot, like just getting into little debates and stuff in sports groups or whatever. And he pulled me aside one day and he was like, what are you doing? I'm like, just going back and forth with folks, just kind of gauging where they are. And he was basically like, you don't have to do that. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you don't have to really do that. You're in a position now where you don't have to necessarily interact with trolls on a daily basis on social media because you have a platform where you can do it here and it goes across the whole triad. And it was the first time I'd ever got it phrased to me that way. And I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. Like, I'm wasting time, like going back and forth with trolls or whatever on Twitter about this and that or whatever. And that conversation popped in my head over the weekend as I was going back and forth with this troll on Twitter about Bryce Young. Bryce Young went 15 for 25 for 126 yards and a touchdown. And my thought was, did he play well enough for them to win the game? Yes, he did. He's been playing better than he did the first 2 weeks of the season, right? But that's a very low bar for him to be playing higher than. And for me, I'm like, this is the same fan base that gave Cam Newton a lot of junk for how he dressed, or sometimes he might have had a bad game, but we never questioned whether or not he was the guy. Like, he came out 400 yards passing first couple of games of his rookie. Like, we knew, like, from first quarter, oh, this guy's different. We haven't had that from Bryce Young, right? Am I tripping? Like, we haven't had that moment yet, and I'm just kind of trying to keep his feet to the fire. He's the number 1 overall pick overall. Like, why are we babying him?
Yeah, your skepticism is justified, and there's certainly nothing wrong with a fair-minded debate. I mean, a long time ago, even before Facebook and social media, I decided as a guy who with growing platforms, even back in the 1990s, that not everybody is worth responding to. In my legal career, there's a term, Des, called good faith, and bad faith is another legal term.
Yeah.
And what it essentially means is that a good faith debate is between two people who are trying to learn and trying to respect the other. You can call out somebody for being inaccurate or unfair, but you're starting from a point of just trying to understand the other side better. A bad faith person doesn't care about any of that. And they're just lazy. They're often ignorant, and they're cheap shot artists. Yeah. So a long time ago, I decided I wasn't wasting my time on cheap shot artists. I took some flack for that stance, but I don't care. You got to earn the right for me to care about somebody else's opinion. And
that's what it is.
A lot of American sports fans fall way, way short of what I call that good faith standard, and I don't lose 1 minute of sleep over it.
I guess I should take it as a compliment that they're coming at me for it, but I totally agree with you. And that's something that I kind of lost my compass on in terms of, like, because you get sucked into it after a while. Someone says something and it just rubs you wrong. You're like, what? That's not what I meant. And you just kind of go back and forth with it. And all of it has to do with Bryce. And I'm just like, okay, 15 for 25 for 126 yards and a touchdown. I know Chuba ran for like 153 yards or whatever. He had a career day. I felt like the post game should have been about him. Like, Chuba just signed a big contract. And it looks like it was legit for what they did with the offensive line. They're finally starting to kind of get an identity running the ball. And Jonathan Brooks is probably going to be back after the break. We finally get a chance to see him. And I don't know, just that conversation with Josh popped in my head. And shout out to Josh, by the way, who just had a baby with his beautiful bride. Yeah, so he's out on paternal leave, and they're doing their thing. So I'm gonna try to reach out to him a little bit later on this week. I know how it is. You do too. Once you have that baby, the first couple of days, it's like it all melts into one day. Like it's like 5 days or 1 day. So trying to give them some room to breathe. I wanted to mention while I had you in here, because I know you've been all over the place. When I was producing, I didn't really get a chance to travel a lot and see a lot of these venues. So I still haven't been to Cameron yet. It's still on my bucket list. I've been to the Dean Dome before. But this Friday, Tobacco Road Sports Radio, we're the production partner for the Charlotte Hornets Radio Network. And we've been that for 3+ years now. They're on WWBG 1470 out in Guilford County. And as part of it, I get certain perks for being a production partner with them. And one of them was that we get tickets, and I never use them. And for my daughter had a field trip. It was like sports day in Charlotte or something, where they got to go down there with their class and hear about different careers and stuff like that. And because the high school football playoffs got pushed back a week, I had a random Friday in November where I had nothing to do. And I was like, well, I can get tickets. Let's go down and watch the game. So me and my wife went down to Charlotte Friday night and watched the Hornets and Pacers. And we were treated to a really good game. The Hornets ended up winning by 20. LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller both combined for 60 points. And I got a chance to actually see them up close and watch them play. I wanted to get your thoughts on Spectrum Center, the way it's kind of designed, the way it kind of is. Because I was really impressed with the whole layout and presentation and everything. And your thoughts on the Hornets early on in the NBA season. I don't know if it's too early to ask, but is Mark Williams heading towards bust territory in your mind because he just can't get on the court? Like, it feels like he hasn't played in 2 years, and they literally had no because Nick Richards was out too on Friday. So they had no post presence really at all. Miles Bridges was out also. So it was just 5 guys standing around the 3-point line pretty much the whole night. So your thoughts on Spectrum Center as a whole, as a venue, and the Hornets, who are 4-5 right now and are in the thick of things in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, I like the Spectrum Center. I mean, I'll always take places like Cameron Indoor Stadium and the Smith Center as my favorite places to watch basketball in North Carolina. But I went to the NBA All-Star Game. I've been to many Hornets games. I've been to the ACC tournament at Spectrum Center in Charlotte. And I think it's an outstanding venue. I enjoy watching games there. The fans seem to have a good time. There are a lot of really good sight lines as a media member or as a fan. So I'm glad you got to take that trip. And I think it's, even when the Hornets aren't very good, I think it's a great place for NBA fans to just be entertained, sometimes by the opponent more than the Hornets. But this year, maybe there are more reasons to be excited about the Hornets part of the equation because LaMelo Ball is a lot of fun to watch. Brandon Miller is an exciting young talent in this league. I think off the bench, Trey Mann, a guy ACC fans got to see quite a bit of during his college days. He's a fun scorer to watch off the bench. Miles Bridges is a proven commodity for the Canes. I share your concerns about Mark Williams. He's always been, a maybe offensive player and a very good defensive player. And guys like Nick Richards and Grant Williams, as big guys, are getting the minutes right now. I'm not sure this is a playoff caliber Hornets team, but I think the talent is more intriguing to watch. And remember, we've seen an ownership change from the Michael Jordan group to the current owners, Gabe Plotkin and Rick Schnall. We've seen, a turning of the page from the Mitch Kupchak era to the 35 or so year old Jeff Peterson as the GM. So it has been a reboot for the Hornets in a lot of ways. And whereas everybody's still seeking that elusive playoff bid, at least they're more entertaining. And right now in the standings, you could at least foresee them competing for maybe a 500 record and a chance to play in the postseason.
And, I think that's what they need. When it comes to the Panthers and the Hornets, I see people all the time talking about, well, what good does it do for us to win? We're just sinking lower in the draft order or whatever. And I'm like, it does the body good to win. It does our soul good as fans to win. Like, we've gone through so much as fans in this state, excluding the Hurricanes, between the Hornets and the Panthers. It's just been like a cycle of just spinning our wheels. And it feels like for both franchises, there's starting to be a light at the end of the tunnel. And for Panther fans in particular, it's been a long time, longer for the Hornets, but for the Panthers, it's been since Cam Newton was running around. So 2018, 2017 was really the last winning season we had. So we're going on 7 seasons now without a winning season. And the Hornets have been sniffing kind of above 500 the past couple of years, but injuries have been their number one thing, where they can't get them all out there at the same time. And I think back to the NBA draft, I wanted Zach Edey. I wanted them to draft Zach Edey from the Hornets, and people were saying his game wouldn't, register in the NBA. And I'm looking, and he's killing it in the
Yeah.
NBA. Like it's almost like the NBA is working in cycles where we're coming out of that Golden State small man ball kind of game where everyone's kind of out, spread out, shooting threes. That element's still there, but you're starting to see big men come back. That inside post presence come back. The Jokic and Giannis and Embiid, who all can go outside and shoot the three, but they can go down in the paint and back you up too. And that's kind of what the Hornets are missing. They don't have that between Mark Williams not being out there. Now, when he plays, he's fantastic, but he's rarely played. So I'm just wondering what's going to happen with that and if he's going to be in the Hornets' future plans going forward. Did want to touch on college basketball real quick before I got you out of here. I was surprised the AP poll came out on Monday, and as it stands right now, Kansas still number 1, 2-0. They had that great game Friday night against Carolina, which never happens. You never see Carolina and Kansas in a home and home first week of the season or whatever. Like we were really treated that, and Carolina came back down 20, almost pulled it off at the end. I can't say anything bad about Carolina other than them starting kind of slow there, middle of the first half, kind of missing a lot of buckets, kind of dug a hole. But seeing them dig out of it against a team like Kansas, give me your thoughts on what you saw from Carolina on Friday. Do you feel like they could be a potential national championship contender from what you saw?
I think they're definitely one of the top 2 teams in the ACC, along with the Duke Blue Devils. I'm not sure if the ACC has, if we made a list of the half a dozen best candidates to win the national title, I'm not sure the ACC has any of those right now. Obviously, a long way to go, a lot of room to grow, but I was really impressed. The number of teams that could be down 20 points at Allen Fieldhouse and show the backbone and the intensity and the belief in their game plan and their belief in each other and the belief in their coach to essentially have a chance to win that game on the road against the number 1 team in the nation. There are not a lot of teams that could come back that way. And I know at a program like Carolina with all those national titles and all those banners, they don't like to claim many moral victories. But I do think it is a really positive sign that they almost shocked the number 1 Jayhawks in Allen Fieldhouse with one heck of a comeback, and they were 1 possession away from pulling it off. The bottom line is they have one of the best backcourts in America. And they almost beat Kansas with R.J. Davis shooting 3 for 15, which might be another positive sign, right? If you came that close on an off night for R.J., what are you capable of on his good nights? Seth Trimble is one of the most improved players in college basketball. Elliot Cadeau is one of the best passers in college basketball. R.J. Davis is one of the best players in college basketball. So the Heels are not sure always what they're going to get from that rotating cast of, lower profile big men. But the combination of talent, experience, and if Hubert Davis can build that chemistry, I think the Heels have as good a chance as anybody at finishing at the top of the ACC. And if they get better, they will be one of those national contenders come March.
As I went through the AP poll, Carolina and Duke are the only 2 ACC schools in the top 25. Yeah. Duke comes in at number 6, still 2-0. Rolling from, they haven't left Cameron yet, but they'll be leaving soon here. Carolina's in 10th. They're 1-1. They dropped down, I believe, a couple of spots from where they were before. And then, Kansas at 1, Bama 2, 2-time defending champ, UConn's 3, Gonzaga moved up to 4, Auburn moved up to 5 after beating Houston. Then you have Duke, Iowa State, Houston, Arizona, and then Carolina rounds out the top 10. I think Wake Forest got like the 3rd most votes in terms of cracking the top 25. But yeah, I agree. It seems like the ACC is really top heavy as it stands right now. And then, of course, with Tony Bennett gone from Virginia, you don't know how they're going to be going forward, especially how he did it when he left. Kind of left them where they had no choice but to bring up the assistant coach to coach that team. Wake is interesting to me in terms of how that might shake out, but it's still early. But they've got enough people that return back, like Hunter Salas and others, that I feel like there's some familiarity there. And Forbes has proven he can get in the portal and find kids that will match what he wants to do, maybe more so than almost any other coach in the country, but it hasn't resulted in him getting into the tournament yet. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. David Glenn joining us here from the North Carolina Sports Network here on a Tuesday edition of the Desmond Johnson Show. Before I get you out, though, real quick around the NFL, one of the things we normally do on Tuesday is 3 things I love or hated this weekend. And one of the things I actually hated this weekend was finding out that Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, Jerry Jones just announced it on his radio show this morning, will be out for the season. If you hadn't heard it already, he has a partially torn hamstring, basically, that he hurt, I believe it was in the Atlanta game last week or week before last. And He's out for the season. Dak just signed an extension in September, a 4-year, $240 million extension, making him the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. My question to you, hindsight's 2020, brother, but do the Cowboys regret signing Dak Prescott to this extension? And what do you think about these rumors that are floating around out there? The Cowboys are 3-7.
Yeah.
So it's Mike McCarthy's last year on his contract anyway. So I don't think he's going to be back. Thoughts on potential of Colorado head coach Deion Sanders being the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, I'm not a big believer in Deion as an NFL coach. I'm impressed by what his Colorado Buffaloes have done at the college level this year. And obviously we all know and remember him in that Dallas Cowboys uniform as a player in the NFL. But those are two very different job descriptions, right? And the track record of even successful college football coaches going to the NFL and maintaining their success there is not very good overall. So I would probably look in a different direction if the Cowboys decide to move on from McCarthy at the end of this season. And with your question about Dak, I imagine that they had to, when they signed that contract extension, they had to look pretty hard at the fact that this is going to be his 4th surgery in the last 5 years. So
just saw that. Yeah.
Right. So they must have felt, 4-year, $240 million contract extension, highest paid quarterback in NFL history.
$60 million a year.
Yeah, right. You definitely listen to your doctors before offering that contract extension. I understand why they did it. Dak at his best, I think, can lead, a playoff caliber Cowboys team. It's a shame he got hurt again. Obviously, the Cowboys are a shadow of themselves when they're playing their backup quarterbacks. I mean, the Eagles just exploited that. My Eagles exploited that this weekend, so I was smiling during that. But I do feel bad for Dak. He has taken a beating at times during his time with the Cowboys. He's fun to watch when he is fully healthy. But the Cowboys just can't seem to align their planets. It's been a long time since they've been, a consistent powerhouse. That, again, makes me happy as an Eagles fan. But if I were in their shoes, I don't think Deion Sanders would be the next guy that I would give a chance there.
I think Deion would only go if something happened and the Cowboys got a top 3 pick and they draft Shedeur Sanders or something and he decides to go there. Because
that would be interesting.
Something to that effect. And, it kind of writes itself. It's kind of one of those Dallas stories. What would Jerry want to do to kind of keep his team in the headlines or whatever? Let's bring in primetime to coach the team. It's a news segment every day with Deion being the spokesperson for Jerry, and they have a relationship too. So it wouldn't be the same thing as Jerry and Mike McCarthy or Jerry and whoever. They have a genuine affection for each other. So I don't know. It's just something curious I'm keeping an eye on. The Chiefs are still undefeated, in case anybody was wondering. Despite every effort in the world to try to not be. Blocking that field goal at the very last second to preserve a 16-14 win. I was listening to it on Sirius XM radio on Sunday. It's just amazing to me where the Chiefs are right now. They're literally a dynasty. They kind of picked up where New England took, kind of put the baton down. And it's not that they can't be beaten. It's just, I don't know who has the moxie to kind of do it for 4 quarters. Now they're about to play Buffalo on Sunday. Yeah. So that's going to be the game of the week. So we'll find out from there if they can keep this going. But the Chiefs are 9-0. It's their best start in franchise history, and I think they're the 4th Super Bowl winner to start the following season 9-0. I think the last one was the Green Bay Packers in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, when they rattled off like 15 wins or something to that effect. I got to get DG out of here. He's got a hard out. We do as well. Wanted to mention we've got a loaded week this week. The high school football playoffs begin here on Tobacco Road. Of course, we're your leader in coverage. We'll have 3 playoff games for you on Friday, including the Grimsley game on WCOG, the East Forsyth game on WTOB, and we'll have the West Forsyth game on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. If East Forsyth and West Forsyth both win, they will play each other again for the second time in 3 weeks after that instant classic we had a couple of weeks ago that determined the conference championship. But tomorrow I'll have Mark Pruitt with me from the Winston-Salem Journal. We'll be previewing his big 3 high school playoff games. We'll have West Forsyth head coach Kevin Wallace at 12:35. We'll have Walkertown head coach Trip Honeycutt at 12:45, and Northern Guilford coach Eric Westberg at 1 o'clock. So it's high school football bonanza on Wednesday. On Friday, best bets with Ryan Stone. R.L. Bynum will stop by to talk Carolina hoops. Steve Wiseman will stop by from the Durham Herald Sun to talk about Duke hoops. And we'll check in with Spencer Turkin, who is the voice of the North Carolina A&T Aggies who are home here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio as well. They play tonight. They are taking on Townsend at. No, that's the football. I'm sorry. They're taking on George Washington. I'm sorry. I'm looking at my calendar over and so I'm like, ooh, because I got to be there. I got to produce it. So A&T George Washington tonight, 6:30 pregame show with Spencer Turkin and myself, and the game tip off at 7:00. I got to get DG out of here. We all got to go. Go back to work, everybody. I know you're sitting around at lunchtime enjoying yourselves. DG will be back here soon. Go check him out, North Carolina Sports Network, over on the YouTube channel, and the David Glenn Show over on Twitter. We will see you guys tomorrow.